Kazama is a middle school student who is on his way to Marina Academy with his younger brother, Kotaro. Unfortunately, their parents passed away in a plane crash, leaving them orphaned without any support. Luckily, the headmistress of Morino Academy offered to become their guardian. However, she also suffered a great loss in the same accident, losing her son and daughter-in-law. The headmistress is an elderly woman with a grumpy demeanor and unruly hair. As soon as Kazama steps into her office, she points at the messy hair and demands that he introduces himself properly. She declares that one must work in order to earn, and she will take care of their education fees in return for their help in supervising the school grounds after hours. According to Seikawa, the assistant principal, the headmistress lost her own family in the accident, so adopting the children makes her feel warmer and happier. The children Kashima is responsible for are offspring of the academy's teachers and staff since the budget is tight. And they cannot afford to hire more babysitters. Therefore, the deceased son's couple created a babysitting club and asked the students for help. However, due to some mischievous behavior from one of the students, no one was willing to change diapers or prepare milk for the kids. As a result, the headmistress had no choice but to assign Kashima to this job. Because Kashima wanted to repay her, he was determined to do his best when he arrived at the babysitting club. There, he found another person, U23, an ex-student of the school who now worked for Lazada, introducing the kids he was taking care of in the school. There was the newcomer with black-dyed hair, Lazada, the girl with green hair, and the twin brothers, Takuma and Kazuma. Lastly, there was the baby, Midori, who couldn't speak yet. During the shift, Kashima was overwhelmed by the mischievous kids who treated him like a new toy. Koot, wanting to claim back her brother, tried to approach Kashima, but he managed to fend her off, and she ended up sitting quietly in a corner. At that moment, U23 told Kashima that his shift was over, and from now until the end of the day, everything was Kashima's responsibility. Unwillingly, U23 left Kashima alone with the mischievous kids. Throughout the day, the children kept Kashima busy, and by the end, their parents finally came to pick them up. Suddenly, a dangerous-looking student appeared. His name was Hayato, the same age as Kashima and the older brother of Taka. Since Taka's mother, who was a teacher, was busy with grading papers, Hayato came to pick him up. Taka refused to leave, so Hayato coaxed him with a gentle pat on the head before carrying him away. When Kashima finally had time to play with his little brother, Kotaro suddenly fell, and Kashima, in a panic, rushed outside with him. Thankfully, Hayato showed him the way to the nearest hospital. Fortunately, it was just a mild fever caused by a change in the environment. Kashima went outside to call and reassure their parents. The two brothers realized that now they didn't have parents anymore. In front of the hospital room, Kashima collapsed and burst into tears. Suddenly, a warm hand began massaging Kashima's head. It turned out to be the headmistress of the academy. She consoled Kashima and expressed her deep understanding of the feeling of loss he and his brother were going through. She understood the pain and sorrow that made it impossible for them to hold back their tears, an indescribable feeling. She revealed that she had also once rejected the truth that her own son had passed away, thinking that one day they would come back. When Kashima returned to the room, he saw Kata crying uncontrollably, desperately wanting his older brother. Finally, they could somewhat release their grief through tears, and the headmistress silently covered them with a blanket, providing comfort and warmth. The following morning, Kashima found an ugly vase on the table and was about to throw it away, but then he discovered that it was from the headmistress. She scolded him, saying it was a vase she carefully kept for years. Kashima was placed in Hayato's class, and CUO also began to integrate with the kids from the club. She burst into their room, waking the brothers up and telling them to have breakfast and get ready for school. When she saw the headmistress's wild hair, she called her, long shoe, fluffy hair, which earned her a playful threat that she would be forced to have the same hairstyle. On his first day at school, the headmistress brought Kashima a new uniform that fit him perfectly, making him tear up with happiness. After dropping CUO off at the club, he rushed to class just in time, while Sita was already yawning and dozing off. On the way to class, other students looked at Kashima with curious eyes, which made him blush from embarrassment. When Hayato approached, Kashima was startled to realize that there was a group of mischievous kids following him, led by U23 and with Kotaro clinging to his back. The kids demanded to play with Kashima and refused to go home. This made Hayato angry, and he threatened them to leave. Taka, witnessing this, got scared and ran away, crying. In his panic, Taka accidentally bumped into a female student named Inomata, and she scolded the kids, making them cry out of fear. Hayato and Kashima had to split up the kids and take them home. While Kashima was trying to comfort his little brother, Inomata approached and frightened the kids again. It turned out that Inomata was Taka's mom, who frequently brought lunch for the little boy. Suddenly, Hayato felt sick and had to be taken to the medical room, leaving Inomata in charge of the kids. The mischievous children often bullied Midori, and when Inomata tried to intervene, they mocked her and refused to listen. Kashima was always followed by Thay Dam, Mr. Dam, but when he tried to distance himself from her, Inomata felt jealous and threw things at her. She cried and expressed how everyone disliked her, causing her to lower her head in despair. Later, they played a sad song, Nookmat, Tears, which made everyone emotional, and they comforted and apologized to each other, hugging tightly and crying throughout the session. Kashima asked Hayato about Yuka's condition, and he explained that he was just faking being sick. As for Inomata, she had fallen asleep alongside the mischievous kids. And when everyone went for lunch, she finally woke up, having skipped an entire class without any reason. One day, out of the blue, Koka noticed something on his shirt. It turned out that the kids had given him the nickname, Kokoro, Tiger Koka, because the picture of the tiger on his shirt didn't look like a real tiger. One of the boys, feeling offended, argued and was punished by Hayato or Arto with a tap on the head. This made the boy burst into tears and run back to U23, seeking comfort and consolation. Feeling annoyed by the situation, Hayato grabbed the boy and carried him away. Kashima noticed that the teachers were always carrying animal-themed books and asked if the boy liked going to the zoo. Since all the kids wanted to go, U23 decided to take them all to the zoo on the coming Sunday. Kashima requested permission from the headmistress to take the kids to the zoo over the weekend, and she agreed, and the assistant prepared lunch for the trip. Once they arrived at the zoo, the kids were excited, pulling each other to see the animals. When they heard the tiger roaring, everyone went to see it except for Inomata, who seemed afraid and stayed behind. After having lunch, the kids continued their visit to the zoo. At the souvenir shop, they discovered that the moms had come in and were planning to buy everything. A little conflict ensued as they had to fight to get what they wanted. Meanwhile, Hitasha was with Yukata, and they suddenly saw someone who resembled Yukata's brother. The boy chased after him but eventually realized that it wasn't him and started crying. At that moment, Hayato appeared and scolded the boy, asking why he was acting recklessly and scaring everyone. Afterward, Hayato comforted Taka and carried him, remarking that boys shouldn't cry like that, making everyone worried. In the end, they reconciled, and it became clear that the two brothers cherished each other deeply. Kashima thought that Inomata's TikTok style might have been learned from her mother. On Valentine's Day, the girls in the class were all excited, giving chocolates to their crushes, including handsome boys like Hayato, who received lots of fans but refused to accept gifts from the kids, much to their disappointment. In another class, Class A, there was also a handsome boy who received gifts from girls and created quite a buzz. The girl who liked him felt jealous and stood up, causing a commotion. The kids in Class 1 couldn't bear it and demanded a solution. Inomata, feeling like she always ruined the happy atmosphere, decided to leave the class, thinking that the kids were afraid of her. This made her hesitant to join the babysitting club. However, in the evening, she eventually joined the club and found that the kids loved playing with her due to her friendly and open personality. While Hinata overheard the girls discussing something suspicious when she approached, she got nervous and quickly rushed to the babysitting club, where she accidentally had a nosebleed and looked like a strange person practicing yoga. One day, Easy's classmate, a boy named Nadu, went to meet someone named Yaz outside the club. He left the babysitting club because he was handsome but had a weird obsession with children, which made him unfit for the job. Upon hearing this, Kashima got scared and hugged the kids, keeping a distance from the creepy guy. He quickly defended himself, claiming to be entirely normal and just being misjudged by kids. He promised not to join the club anymore but requested to come sometimes to pick a kid to play with. Suddenly, the kids turned to Inomata, asking for chocolate. She refused, saying it would violate the rules, but due to their crying and pestering, she promised to bring chocolate tomorrow. That evening, Kashima and her little brother walked home with Inomata. Kashima went to a convenience store and bought black chocolates for Inomata, thanking her and saying he liked girls like her, making her blush. Kashima's classmate, Yuki, saw this and thought they were dating. The headmistress then instructed the assistant, Kawa, to distribute chocolates to the two brothers and IE's kids.